And now, on a lighter note, what happens when you take 300 tons of sand, a few simple tools, and a lot of creativity? Well, if you're a world champion sand sculptor, you get one beautiful work of art. A local mall in West Dundee is displaying one of the world's largest sand sculptures, 15 feet high. The theme is from Star Wars, and you've just got to see this to believe it.
I think it's more of a salute to George Lucas and the Star Wars fantasy.
Providing any earthquakes, this would last literally indefinitely. I mean, pieces would eventually just fall off, but in general, we've done these outdoors where they've stood in height over a year.
Well, it's very unique how this whole sand sculpture project got started. Ted Siebert, who is one of the partners of the sand sculpting company that is producing our sand sculpture, he lives in Woodstock, Illinois, which is just about 10-15 miles northwest of Spring Hill Mall. And he's been traveling all over the country doing sand sculptures and thought it would be unique if he could do something close to his hometown.
We sort of generate publicity for events, you know. I mean, you guys are here, then we're in the newspaper today, and so it's, for us, we sell a lot of publicity because this is such an unusual art medium to work in, especially indoors. You know, carting 300 tons inside of a shopping mall is a feat in itself.
It's like a three-step procedure. What we'll do is we'll compact the sand in these boxes and climb up to the top and take the compacted box off. Like the walker up here, it's like 15 feet tall. So we climbed up our forms, took the top box off, blocked that out, take the next box off, block that out to make sure it's going to not fall. Then we go back and do all the fine detailing, like the eyes and the grills and the fighter jet. So we have to work our way down from the top until everything's all completed. You know, a normal artist would have, you know, weeks to do just a fighter itself there, you know, where that's got to be done in 2 days because we have such a tight time frame. So you have to kind of set your goals and kind of achieve those every day. You know, we start out with a big game plan and then make adjustments, you know, periodically throughout the whole sculpture. A lot of things, you know, like the walker's head would never stand by itself, but what we'll do is we'll get a nice shadow line there and then just kind of fade it in there. And I think most people's eyes, they pick out the strong points, you know, and they don't really see the negative space. So there's a lot of negative space that kind of comes into play to really make the characters jump out.
Well, this medium is difficult in one sense that you have to find sand that's strong enough that'll hold together, particularly this job, because we're having all these walls, and the base of these walls is only about 3 feet wide, and it's 6 foot tall walls. So that's a lot of weight on such a narrow base. This sand, unfortunately, has a lot of clay chunks and silt deposits in it, but that's also what makes it stronger. It originated on the coast, you know, the West Coast particularly. And there's like 2 hubs of sand sculpting. There's the Southern California group, and then there's our group out of the Pacific Northwest, because a lot of guys from Canada sand sculpt professionally from British Columbia, because that's where the World Sandcastling Championships have been.
That is probably one of the biggest challenges, to replicate something so that it's totally familiar. I mean, there's a few fudges that you have to do. You know, we can't add all the little fine detail. Like the new movie had C-3PO, and he's got tons of wires and just, you know, buttons and knobs everywhere, and, you know, it'd virtually be impossible to do in sand, you know, like that. But what we'll do is we'll scale things down. You know, we'll take a picture, get the height and width measurement, figure out, you know, kind of the proportions. Once you get the proportions down, then you can go and you can look at the details.
The only mold that we would use is maybe a melon baller for buttons, you know, that makes a little half sphere shape. But this is all free carved. 99.9% of it is all hand carved by hand. But we're trying to make about 8 vignettes from the movie scenes. There's a Yoda scene where his little dwelling where he lives, and then we've got a pod racing scene from the new movie. This is the Jabba the Hutt scene in the beginning of the 3rd movie when Harrison Ford is entrapped in carbonite, I think it's called, and this is going to be Princess Leia, and she's shackled, and you know, then the movie begins. And then we've got some spaceships, because you have to have spaceships in a space movie, and we've got the Imperial Walker from the 2nd movie, and we've got little Ewoks, and a few other. We've got Darth Vader in here, and there's probably a couple ones that haven't even popped out yet. There's just about everything in these 4 movies that have been out so far. So in one sense, there's a lot of material to go, but we've got stacks of books around here of pictures to go by. The other thing is, well, how much time is that character going to take? All right, well, I can't do that one. That's going to take 4 days, you know, or something like that.
It's awesome. I'm just trying to figure out how he got it all together, and, you know, I heard he did it by memory, so it's a pretty amazing thing. That's what I was reading outside. It's done with sand and water and a little compaction, and I can't understand how he can get all the flat surfaces in that. I just redid my patio with some sand and I couldn't get it to stick either, so it's just pretty amazing.
Beautiful. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable that they can do that with sand. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also amazing how could they get all this sand in here in the middle of the mall.
There's a $1 admission for anybody who would really like to come inside and see the sculpture. There's a $1 admission, and all the proceeds are going to be going to our Cashback for Schools program. And that's a program that it's in its 3rd year at Spring Hill. And it's basically to assist any school in the area, middle or high school, that needs funds.
And these big jobs are especially fun because we get to spend a lot of time on it and watch it develop. And I guess the only other thing, that the drawback is that we work so hard at this that we don't really look at it in an enjoyment. I mean, when it's all finished, we'll go, you know, hard to believe.
Now that takes talent. And did you know that a sand sculpture can stand forever? Provided it's not touched, of course. You can catch this Star Wars sand sculpture through August 8th at the Spring Hill Mall at routes 31 and 72 in West Dundee. For information, call 847-428-2200. Well, that about does it for us this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Also, a big thank you to